Now, hopefully, I lost two of these somewhere and I had to redo them, recreate them last night. So we'll see how it works. Okay, so this one is going to talk about satellite operation. And sometimes we call these space stations, which is anything, actually I forgot the limits, you know, so far off the ground it's called a space station, or a space station or a space satellite. Most of these satellites have what we call a beacon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a channel that sends out health and status information of the satellite. It'll include things like temperature and power, like, you know, battery voltage, stuff like that. Signal strength. And one of the things, since these satellites are essentially solar powered, or they may have some other form of energy supply, it's very limited. In fact, it looks like most of them are running about 20 milliwatts, which is not much power. No, excuse me, 100 milliwatts. So that if you're sending a very strong signal to one of these satellites, because of the power limitation, and it tries to broadcast at the same signal strength it receives, it's essentially just a transponder, you may block other users on that satellite because you're using all of the available energy. So you really don't want to send out a signal any greater than you need to when you're talking to a satellite. And one way to check is by looking at the beacon channel to see if your signal strength is about the same as what the beacon's putting out. Another thing is that you don't have to have a license to listen to the telemetry from a space satellite or space station, even the International Space Station. All you have to do is have a receiver capable of receiving that frequency. This is just a little chart showing for some satellites, and this top is showing what for different ones, what the uplink frequencies are. These are all UHF. And then down here on the downlink, it's showing what the beacon channel is, and it's actually sending its telemetry in Morse code at 22 words a minute. Wow. Which means I couldn't decode it. But you can see that the power for the beacon channel is 17 dBm. So that means it's 17 dB relative to a milliwatt. So if you remember your dBs, 17 dB is just a little more than 16, and 16 would be 40 milliwatts, 40 times. So it's probably 45 times. If you look at the transponder, it's going to be 20 dBm, which means it's 100 times a milliwatt, or 100 milliwatts. And because these are fairly, well, like the CW and the others, you can see the bandwidth is fairly narrow. So what is a satellite beacon?
Delta.
What telemetry information is typically transmitted by satellite beacons?
Charlie.
Charlie. Unless it's, oh, yeah,
What's the impact of using excessive effective radiated power on a satellite uplink?
Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Which of the following is a way to determine whether your satellite uplink power is neither too low nor too high?
Charlie.
Charlie. Who may receive telemetry from a space station?
Alpha.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a number of satellite tracking programs that you can run either on your computer, or I think some of them will run on a phone. And they give you real-time positions of the satellites. They show things like the time, the azimuth, the elevation, the max altitude, and the end of a pass, depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they show the apparent frequency of the transmission, because depending on the satellite, if it's not geostationary, there's relative movement. So that creates what we call Doppler shift, which means that the frequency that the satellite is sending doesn't change, but it appears to change because of the movement between the satellite and the Earth. You familiar with Doppler shift? You ever heard of a train coming and going
Mm-hmm.
and the sound changes?
Yeah.
Well, the sound didn't really change. It appeared to change because of the relative motion. That's called Doppler shift.
Oh.
That's how the some of the older police radar guns work, by Doppler shift. They'd send out a pulse, radar pulse, and the one coming back would be a different frequency depending on your speed relative to them. In order to use these satellite tracking programs, they require input data, which is in the form of what we call the Keplerian elements. And there's sources for those, like the ARL sends them out if you subscribe, like every day. And that has all the information about all the different satellites that these programs can use to do their real-time positioning and estimates. So what is Doppler shift in reference to satellite communications?
Charlie.
Charlie. Here's a picture of, this one happens to be part of Ham Radio Deluxe, which is a package you can buy that supports a lot of different kind of amateur radio things. And one of them is this tracking map. It's only looking at one satellite here, and you can see the path, and that oval is kind of the footprint of where you can receive it. So as that moves, if you're in that footprint, you should be able to pick it up. And it shows things like, which aren't very good, the uplink frequency and the downlink frequency and things like that. And there's a bunch of different ones. They all do a little bit different things. So which of the following are provided by satellite tracking programs?
Delta.
Which of the following are inputs to a satellite tracking program?
Beta, but I still don't know what it is. The Keplerian elements.
Well, it's a bunch of data.
Okay.
In the one, the slides that I lost, I had a copy of one of the outputs.
Is this stuff like to help you figure out which of all those satellites is the one you want to learn about?
Well, it lists the satellites by their number or name,
Okay.
and all the information about it. That it's I forgot what all's in there.
But it's basically to help you identify the satellite and how to talk to it.
Where it is at a specific point in time, things like that, so that the programs can use that data to map where it is.
Okay.
Because they're not actually even though it said real-time plotting, it's not really real-time. It's based on calculating from the Keplerian elements where it's going to be, but it can do it very accurately. So when we talk to a satellite, they can be set up to use different communications modes. Some of them will do single sideband, some FM, some CW and data. If you noticed on the beacon type stuff, they were sending down status information in CW and other telemetry information as data. The transponder part, which would be the voice, could be single sideband or FM. They also have two different modes that they can operate in, and we call those UV or VU mode. And what that stands for is what frequencies are used for uplink and downlink. So in the case of a UV mode, it means we're using UHF frequencies for the uplink and VHF frequencies for the downlink. Whereas VU mode would be VHF for uplink and UHF for downlink. In that chart I showed a little bit earlier, let's go back.
Yep.
I can remember how far back it was.
Should be one more. There it is.
It's there.
All right, didn't think it was that far back. Oh, come on.
Just doing
We're
the
just
test
moving
question.
right along, aren't we? You're close now.
I thought it was right after the beacon. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Okay. These satellites would be operating in UV mode because it's UHF for the uplink and VHF for the downlink. And I think that's the more typical mode you would see. But it could be either one. You just have to know which. Okay, what mode of transmission is commonly used by amateur radio satellites?
Delta.
What is meant by the station a satellite is operating in UV mode?
Alpha.
Yeah, I think so. No?
Oh, well, then it's
Bravo?
Charlie.
Well,
I'm like,
let's see.
if it wasn't Alpha, I was going to guess Bravo. But I don't think we do the
Band?
70 centimeter thing, so I think it's Alpha. I do.
Well, let's see what we can eliminate, because there's almost two that you can throw out easily.
I'm saying,
So we don't use ultraviolet frequencies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the satellite frequencies are fixed, not variable.
okay.
Right.
So we're down to alpha or bravo. So is the 15-meter band UHF?
No.
Is the 70
Well,
centimeter band
I think if
UHF?
we knew that, we'd have picked the right one.
So it's got to be Bravo. We're left.
Oh. So it's
Well,
ultra high
remember,
frequency versus very
70
high
centimeters
frequency.
is UHF. And 2 meters is VHF. So the answer is bravo.
Well, that was my second guess.
Yeah. But second
But I didn't
guesses
read,
don't.
I don't remember centimeters happening before.
Yeah, the centimeters threw me. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well,
too bad.
once you get to a wavelength below a meter, you start measuring it in centimeters. Remember, the wavelength is the speed of light divided by the frequency. So as the frequency goes up, the wavelength gets shorter.
I think we're going to have to get much more proficient in this, which numbers or which band and different ways of expressing them, etc.
So, but with a technician license, mostly you'll be operating on the 70 centimeter band or the 2 meter band.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay.
And when I went back to that chart showing the uplink and downlink frequencies, that 430 megahertz, whatever they were at, is in the 70 centimeter band.
So
And the
that's
145 is
you.
2 meter.
So that's ultra high frequency,
Yes. And
right?
then there's super
You.
high frequency, and then there's stuff above that. But most repeaters and handy talkies are going to be operating on the UHF and VHF, these two bands, 70 centimeters and 2 meters. So satellites on purpose rotate, because if they're sitting still in space, one side gets extremely cold and one side facing the sun gets extremely hot, and it can cause a tremendous amount of thermal stress. So what they do is they put it into what's called rotisserie mode, where it rotates and tries to keep the temperature about the same on the outside of the satellite. Because it's rotating, the antennas that it's receiving and transmitting with are rotating. So that causes a cyclic fading of the signal because the antenna is rotating relative to your antenna. And we call that spin fading.
What's the word? Because, spin fading.
Because the satellite is spinning and the signal tends to fade in and out. So what causes spin fading of satellite signals?
Bravo.
There's also what we call low LEO satellites or low Earth orbit satellites.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember. I left a thing off of here. I think it's 50 kilometers and below. But because they're so low, they have an orbital period that's less than 128 minutes. It means they're going around pretty fast, like 7.8 kilometers a second.
Wow.
So what is a LEO satellite?
Delta.